Good morning. My name is Diane Harrington, and I use she, her pronouns. I serve this congregation on the religious services team, on the finance team, in the choir, and in the chimes, which I'm very excited about for you all to hear today. Welcome to our special place. At the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Quad Cities, we welcome all people. Good morning. We welcome all people into our beloved community of whatever age, race, class, ethnicity, physical ability, sexual orientation, gender identity, or religious background. We welcome especially those of you joining us for the first time today. We invite everyone to join us downstairs after service for coffee, snacks, and conversation. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Good morning. My name is Gale Springer, and I'm going to lead you through the next hour. Yay! Our opening words today are from Joe Von Rue, Celebrating the Darkness. Traditionally, Advent is a time of searching for light in the dark. The pagan tradition of Yule is a celebration of the return of the sun. But darkness is as important as light. The cold dark of winter is as important to life as the bright warmth of summer. Darkness is home to entire ecosystems, places where humans cannot live or survive. Darkness offers us the gift of rest, healing, and hope. It is in the darkness of sleep that our bodies are able to heal and rejuvenate. Darkness offers opportunities for beauty and love to live in our lives. Conception begins in the dark womb. A great prophet was born at night. And the vastness of the universe can only be seen on the darkest of nights. So on the longest of nights, let us welcome the night. Let us give thanks for the life, rest, healing, hope, love, and beauty that are offered to us only in the darkness. Come, beautiful souls, and let us worship as we embrace the darkness together. So as I have Sarah Martin and Graciana come up and light the chalice for us, let us all recite our chalice lighting words. They're in your order of service and up on the screen. Let us hold a quiet moment together as our chalice is lit. As the wild wind bites, so does the still flame warm us. As the deep snow blocks our doors, so does the gentle flame bring us out. Words to challenge our minds, and words to bring us action. Let us gaze upon this our common flame, so that we remember to give. So if you'll rise now in body or spirit for our opening song, In the Bleak Midwinter, number 241 in your gray hymnal. The lyrics will be up on the screen. if you'll remain standing. And remember that in the spirit of love and fellowship, we will now greet the holy in our midst by briefly greeting those around us, especially those whom we do not know.
Good morning. Can I have the children come up, please? Move this over a little bit. All right, can you sit? No? Okay. Kaylee's going to be my little helper today. Does everybody know what yesterday was? 21st. The 21st, yes. What's the 21st? Yule. Yep. Also known as the winter solstice. Correct. Does everybody know why we celebrate the winter solstice or what's so special about it? Yes. Giancarlo.
It's the shortest day of the year.
It is the shortest day of the year and the darkest day of the year. That's when we get the least amount of sunlight. So we celebrate the sun coming back because now every day is going to get a little bit longer and longer. And we talk about the light coming back. And there's another way to say light. So, we think of light as the sun, but we can also think of light as being a good person and spreading joy. So bringing the light to other people, right? So let's take a minute and think. How can you bring the light to other people in the next coming weeks? Does anyone have any ideas? How about you, Kailani? How can you bring light to people? Do you need more time to think? That's okay. Hadessa, how can you bring light to people?
Candle.
Candles? People do love candles. They smell really good. So are you going to give someone a candle?
Yeah.
Yeah?
I did. Candle from my baker.
Oh, no. Yeah, that's why we got to be careful with candles. Anyone else?
Baker.
Yes, Gracie, how are you going to bring the light? You could. You could give someone a hug. You could smile at somebody new. Think about it. When you're having a bad day and someone smiles at you, does that make you feel better? We got mixed reviews here. How many of you, raise your hand if a smile makes you feel better on a bad day? Okay, a lot of you. But that also goes to show that everybody needs something different. Right? Does a hug make you feel better on a bad day? Who wants a hug on a bad day? And again, that's not everybody. So you know what? You could ask somebody, what do you need when they're sad, right? How about you, Kaylee? How can you bring the light?
I can see if they want to play with me if there's no one.
Yeah, you can ask a friend to play with you. How did you bring the light to your new classmate this week?
For sure I gave a new gift, a lot of gifts.
Yeah, you gave her a present. You also said Kaylee has a friend in class who's from Vietnam. And you said hello to her in Vietnamese, right? That probably made her feel really special. Anyone else have any ideas? Or are we ready to go downstairs?
They go downstairs.
Okay, let's go downstairs.
Good morning. I'm Barbara Thompson, a member of Pastoral Care. We come together as a community to share the joys, the concerns, the sorrows, and the milestones of our lives. At this time of sharing, we take a moment to read your entries from the Book of Joys and Concerns, located at the table at the entrance to the sanctuary. So, do we have any concerns online today? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. We have a couple of concerns in the book today from Marcy Doyle. The world is in such turmoil, and we acknowledge all of the people who are suffering, particularly Ukraine, Gaza, and Syria. From Susan Perry, asking for caring thoughts for students, teachers, and families at Abundant Life Christian School in Madison. And we have some joys today also, again from Marcy. Her son Daniel arrives for a week today, and that's Deshaun and Dom's dad. And her son David is in rehab and looking to stay in a sober living unit. And her grandson graduates from Army boot camp this week. Lots of good news. And from Ann Harrington, for the earth-based tradition and their beautiful solstice service last night. For what has been shared and for what remains in the quiet sanctuary of our hearts, we are grateful. And now let us become aware of the energy that brings us together in beloved community as we share a time of silent meditation. May we open our hearts and minds to a place of quiet and engage in a silent prayer for the healing of pain and the balm of love. When the musical meditation begins, you are invited to come forward in silence to light a candle.
congregation is a theologically diverse religious community with membership open to all who are in accord with our values, mission, and vision. Our congregation is entirely self-governed by the democratic process. One of the privileges of our free church tradition is to provide all of the financial support for our many ministries from among ourselves. Generosity, therefore, is one of the spiritual values we recognize as central to our personal and institutional well-being. This month, undesignated plate offering, 100%, will go towards our staff bonuses. Please be as generous as you can, and we now invite you to participate in the blessing of giving as the ushers come among you to accept the gifts from our congregation. For all the gifts of time and treasure that you give to this congregation, we sincerely thank you. So I'm breaking my reflection up into two little things. First of all is going to be a reading about the Oak King and the Holly King by Erica Barron. The story is told that in the beginning there were two gods who were brothers. And like many brothers, they struggled with each other for ascendance and power. One brother was the king of forces of life, light, and warmth. He wore a crown made of green oak branches and brought with him all the growth and vitality, fertility, and abundance. He was called the Oak King. His brother was the king of the forces of death, cold, and darkness. He wore a crown made of the prickly holly branches and brought with him all withering and decay, stillness and hibernation. He was called the Holly King. The brothers were identical in strength, so year after year, the same pattern was repeated. Each year, the Oak King would grow strong and mighty, and during his time in dominance, the light would gradually increase, bringing with it warmth and abundance. But each year, at the height of his power, he would be thrown down by the Holly King. In the wake of the Holly King's victory, the light would gradually wane, and as it did, cold would come and the land would go dormant. But at the height of the Holly King's power, he would be challenged again by the Oak King and would fall. And the cycle would repeat again and again and again. Alone, the brothers were equals. But soon there came a race of beings known as people. The people watched this cycle, and pretty soon they began to take sides. The people loved light and warmth, and they feared darkness and cold. And so each year they would celebrate the victory of the Oak King, but they would mourn the victory of the Holly King. When the two struggled with each other, the people would lend the strength of their voices and their bodies, their minds and their spirits to the Oak King. But the Holly King was without their support. And so time went by. Over time, the people's adoration of warmth and light only grew. And so they began to invent ever new ways to find light in the darkness and warmth in the cold. And finally, if they wished it, they could spend all of their time in the light they had created, and they could be warm all year long. But their efforts to stay always in the light and in the warmth were not without consequences. Generations passed and generations again, and people did not first notice the shifts in the balance, but finally they could ignore it no longer. The people began to notice that the darkness was disappearing from the land, driven out by millions of lights the people had created. Animals, birds, plants, even people began to suffer the effects of light, unbalanced by the darkness. But it was not just darkness that was disappearing. Cold began to flee too. The whole world began to get warmer. Summer began sooner and lasted longer. Ice that had been frozen far longer than most memory of the oldest person in the land began to melt. Migrating birds and animals began to be confused about when to begin migration. Plants found themselves rooted in climates that no longer supplied their needs. The air was changing, and the winds that brought the rain had been taken away and began to flow in unexpected directions, causing drought here and flood there. The people began to see that their support of warmth and light over cold and darkness had altered the balance of the whole world. They began slowly, one at a time, to realize that the Holly King was dying. And for the first time, this thought filled them with fear. What would happen if the balance continued to be destroyed? Could they even survive in a world without the Holly King? And in the world of gods, the Oak King realized it too. And though they had been competitors all these many centuries, he also realized that he loved his brother deeply and could not live without him. The longest night came, and the Oak King and the Holly King met again. But this time, the Oak King had no heart for the fight. He laid down his sword and spear. He came open-handed to his brother, who was struggling just to stay on his feet. The Oak King wrapped the Holly King in a tight embrace, and he promised to set aside their differences and help his brother heal. On the night when he usually claimed descendants, the Oak King realized that the world was already too warm and too light. And so he laid the great oak crown on the head of his brother, took his hand, and each supporting each other, they went out into the world to see what could be done to restore the balance. This ends that reading. The reading means a lot to me, not just because it's a story of love and balance, but it's a reminder of what we're doing to our earth. And being pagan, it's very important to me. Being a human, it's very important to me that we restore this balance. We fight for the Holly King to get balance back. So, in all honesty, I'm going to be 100% here. I struggled with this reflection today. When I was half asleep, I come up with present in the presents, because this month we're talking about presents. Why did I make this my title? What does it even mean? Whose presents are we talking about? And am I giving them a present? Or am I getting presents? Am I the present? That's just too much. It's just way too much. This time of the year, we have all this hustle and bustle in preparing for one recognized holiday throughout the whole United States. I can't say the whole world. Not everybody recognizes Christmas. And that is another reason why I chose that reading of the Oak King and the Holly King. It's that beautiful reminder you cannot lose sight of both sides of things. You know, and as much as I love a good warm spring, summer, and I wish that fall could be here forever, it's not going to happen. And unless I become like one of our snowbirds, I've had to learn to live and embrace the cold days. I've learned that being present in the presence of both sides of this yearly battle, that I need to be aware of the beauty, the balance that they both bring to the table. I've always found the seasons comforting and sometimes challenging to accept. But the seasons end. That's how the world works. That's how it's supposed to work. It is no different with our church year. It's predictable, but it's also wild. We need to be present in the presence of the changing of the church year in order to appreciate it and see the balance inside of it. So, speaking of church year, I have a little story to tell you, so stick with me on this one. I love to tell stories from my childhood, and for that I need a drink of water. So when I was about 6 to 9 years old, I lived in Scotland. I think I've told a few stories about Scotland. My dad was in the Navy, so this is why I lived in Scotland. When we first moved there was no housing available on the base that my dad worked at. Because he was in the military, there was military housing. So there was no room in the inn, so to speak. That was appropriate for his rank. Let me preface that. It was not appropriate for his rank. There was some housing available, but he did not qualify. So we lived just outside of the base in this little cottage on a farmer's land. There was one cottage, 2 halves. We lived in half of it. And every day my dad would either get a ride from one of his buddies or he would walk to work. It was close enough. I think it was just over a mile. So we lived in that cottage for about 1.5 years. My parents were Catholic, so I was raised in the Catholic faith. And every Sunday we went to church. We'd cut through the farmer's field and over some fences and through the woods and uphill both ways in 10 feet of snow. But we would go to church, and then when we came back, cutting through those fields again, singing all the way, talking to the animals, waving at the farmer, doing our thing. But that first Christmas, we were still in the cottage, and it was the most magical Christmas for me. It was a clear night, no clouds in the sky. It was chilly, because it's Scotland. And my mom was determined that we were going to midnight mass. So it was just me, my older sister, and my brother at the time. I am one of 6 children, but there was just 3 of us at the time. And we were so excited because we were allowed to open one Christmas gift before we left. And my ever practical mom made sure that that present was our new hat, mittens, and gloves, and scarves for the year. And this was very important because when we moved there, we had been living in New Orleans, Louisiana. And don't get much snow and cold and ice down there. So it was very important that we had these. So once we're sufficiently all bundled up, there we go, over the fence, over the cow grates that keep the cows inside of their pastures. Making sure we don't tread on any cow pies, because my mom would always say, that would make us the closest to Mother Nature we will never want to be. So after service, we bundled back up and we went outside to start the trek home. And this is when the inside of me realized something was different. I'll never forget. We stepped outside, and it was so bright outside. Of course, I thought, oh my gosh, did we stay here all night? Because it was nothing but darkness when we walked. We had to have flashlights when we walked to church. And we looked up, and there was the fullest, shiniest moon I had ever seen in my little life. You know, I was about 6, maybe 7 at the time. It was huge. I realized later it was just coming up, and that's why it was so huge. As I got older, I understood. But little me was so excited. So all the way back to the cottage, all of us, even my parents, kept thanking the moon for being there to light our way. We sang Christmas songs. We mooed to the cows, who mooed back as if to say, why did you wake me up? We giggled. We laughed. Even my dad, who was just one of those people that wasn't a giggler or laughter, had a great time. This Christmas time memory was so special that as I got older, I'm able to reflect back on it. We were able to tell the story to my younger siblings as they were growing up. And every year we would tell the same story over and over. And I did not fully understand what I was feeling deep down inside of me, in my soul, that night until I got older. That is what being present means. I was present in the presence of this beautiful night with my family. I was so deeply there. Nothing bothered me. The cold didn't bother me. The cows didn't bother me. Trying to walk over the cow grates didn't bother me because I had little feet, and those things are hard to walk over when you have little feet. You know, and when we got home, we all got up on the couch, and my dad got the fireplace going again, which in Scotland at the time, warmed by coal. That was always fun. Hands got dark and dirty when you went to get it if you didn't have gloves. And we sat there and we had some cocoa and we just talked together and we were together. To me, that was the best Christmas I'd ever had in my whole life. Nothing is going to top that. And my kids aren't up here, so I can say that. Not even the first Christmas with my kids. I love them too, but that's number 2. I'm just trying to say being present comes in so many different forms. And I hope that during this season of winter, the whole season of winter, not just this next week and a half during the holidays, you are all present with each other. You're present with yourself. And you find that whatever presence you are in, that you appreciate it for all of its beauty. Whether it be an ice storm, a beautiful day, a human being you haven't seen in a long time. Appreciate it. Good and bad, hot and cold, light and dark. It's time for us to be present in all of our presence. Those of us who can no longer physically be with us, their presence lives inside us and always helps us to be who we are. So as I end my reflection, I want to offer up a prayer to you that was written by Erica Shadowsong. Spirits of winter, I celebrate you. Thank you for your presence in every corner of our homes, whether we can see you or not. May you be welcomed this winter. May it be so. Aho. Amen. If you'll please join me in rising in body and our spirit for our closing song. Let's get fun with this one. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa la 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 la. It is in the gray hymnal, number 235, and the words are up on the screen. Please remain lifted up as we extinguish our chalice and join in the unison reading on the screen and in your order of service. Okay, let's just start. My friends,
May the spirit of love be a living flame before you, a guiding star above you, a firm path below you, and a gentle presence behind you.
so mote it be. You can be seated. So we have moved the announcements to the end of service. Just a reminder, if you have an announcement for Sunday service, please send it to the office at office@uucqc.org by 12 noon on the Thursday before service. We have two announcements. Diane Harrington would like to invite everybody to the Christmas Eve service. It'll be at 6 p.m. on Tuesday evening. And as usual, we will gather afterwards for refreshments and beverages. This is not an assigned hospitality event. We will welcome all donations of cookies and treats. Board members in attendance will make and serve coffee as usual. Thank you to all of the planners. The second announcement is about the chimes. Was that not awesome? So I personally need to thank Ken and Taryn and Molly and Diane, and of course my good friend Liz, who is joining us from a group that I play in. She helped us out. Thank you all for making this happen, but we need more ringers. You don't have to read music. You need to be able to count to 4, know your left from your right. We'll teach you all the rest. So if you're interested, or if you even just want to ring a chime to see what it's like, I'll be down there after service. I can kind of show you a little bit. We will be rehearsing on Sundays after service, starting on the July 5th. Is that what we said, July 5th? January 5th. Woo! Been a long night. January 5th. So we'll rehearse after service at 11:30. So if you want to join us, and check it out, please do. We would love to have you. It is so much fun and it's so beautiful. So we also have some announcements on the back of your order of service if you want to take a look at those. So closing words. My closing words is called The Winter Solstice by Rebecca Ann Parker. Perhaps for a moment, the typewriters will stop clicking, The wheels will stop rolling, the computers will desist from computing, and hush will fall over the city. For an instant, in the stillness, the chiming of the celestial spheres will be heard as the earth hangs, poised in the crystalline darkness, and then gracefully tilts. Let there be a season when holiness is heard and the splendor of living is revealed. Stunned into silence by beauty, we remember who we are and why we are here. There are inexplicable mysteries, and we are not alone. In the universe, there moves a wild one. In the universe, there moves a wild one whose gestures alter the earth's axis towards love. In the immense darkness, everything spins with joy. The cosmos enfolds us. We are caught in a web of stars, cradled in a swaying embrace, rocked by the holy night. Babes of the universe. Let this be the time we wake to life, like spring wakes in the moment of winter solstice. Go in peace, and if you wish to say it with me, merry meet, merry part, and merry meet again.
That's the